Hi students, welcome back. Today we will study about force. In this chapter, I'll be teaching on force, effects of force, types of contact forces, then types of non-contact force. Now what is force? When you think of a force, you can think of a push or a pull. So force is a push or a pull. It's not something that you can see or touch, but you can see it in action. In physics, force is the product of mass into acceleration. What is acceleration? It's change in velocity by time, right? So force is a product of mass into acceleration, and force is measured in Newton, which is represented by the symbol N, capital N. Now, force usually results from an interaction. The interaction can be a physical or a non-physical one. Suppose, let's start the lesson with a short mind picture. Suppose you opened the fridge and brought out a Pepsi can. Then what happened? You opened the cover of the tin and then drank the whole can, and then what, after finishing, you crushed the can in your hand and threw it in the dustbin. So what happened? You applied force in many of your actions. Your actions involved the use of force to lift, to open the fridge, then you drank the Pepsi, and then you crushed the can, so you change the shape of the can. So this is how you apply force in your daily lives. So here we can see a derivation. What happens? We all know that force is mass into acceleration. In place of acceleration, v by t. Again, if the t is brought to here, it becomes impulse, and this is momentum. This is about momentum, which I will be teaching in my later videos. Just for now, you just remember it. So force, what are the effects of force? First, it changes the direction of an object. It may turn things, like suppose wind force turn the blades of the windmill. Now it can also change the shape of something. You crush the Pepsi can and the shape of the Pepsi can changes. So it can change the shape, it can turn things, it can change direction. Now there are two different types of forces. One, the interaction of force can be a physical one or a non-physical one. Physical one means there is a contact between the two bodies. That is contact force or physical forces. Then second one is non-contact force, where there is no contact between the two bodies. So there are different types of contact forces and different types of non-contact forces. Now let's see what are the types of contact forces. First one is a friction force. Then second one is the reaction force. Third one is the tension force. Then it's a spring force. Fifth one is the collision force. Contact forces. First one, we will see what is friction force. Friction is a force that stops things from moving easily. This person is moving this block, and friction is the force which stops things moving easily. Whenever an object moves or rubs against another object, it feels frictional forces. These forces act in opposite direction to the movement. If the motion of the body is in this direction, as you can see, the push was in this direction, friction acts in opposite direction. Now, when a glass block is placed on a tabletop, is pushed to the right, the force of friction acts on the glass towards the left. The force resists the motion of the glass on the tabletop. Similarly, here what happens? If the force is applied in this direction, then friction force is in the opposite direction. Similarly, in this case, friction force is in this direction. If the box is moving in this direction, we can find the friction force to be in this opposite direction. So friction force always acts in opposite to the push. Now second one is reaction force. Reaction force is the force which allows the body to stay in the same place due to another equal opposite force. Now let's see this one. Suppose here one action force is given, then obviously there is a reaction force. Now there are various examples of reaction forces. First, let's see this last one. When a body is placed on the surface, it exerts a force downward equal to its weight on the surface, but the body does not move, or the book does not move or fall, because the surface exerts an equal and opposite force on the body normal to the surface, which is called normal reaction force. Similarly, this person, you can see that when he is stepping out from the boat moves away. So that when there is a reaction force, there will be an action force. Similarly, here what happens? One force allows the air to rush down of the balloon. Then reaction force will be the balloon goes up. Similarly, here winds blows on you and there will be a reaction force on the fan. Another type of contact force is tension force through a string. So what's this tension force? I'll make it easy for you. See, tension is a force that stretches something. Stretching, when you remember this word stretching, it obviously means that there is a wire, there is a rope, there is something like string. So tensional force is a force applied by an object being stretched. The object being stretched might be a rope, string, or an elastic band, or a wire. The tension force of the object is applied on the objects that are stretched in it. Suppose, as you can see in this diagram, when this block moves in this direction, the tension force will also applied in the same direction, and when due to this block the string moves in this direction, the tension force will be applied in the downward direction. The tensional force is directed along the stretched objects. As you can see here, there is a tension force acting on the string, which is in angle with the support. Similarly, here what happens? Whenever the string is pulled in this direction, tension force acts upward. Whenever it's pulled down, it will act in the downward direction. So this is tension force. This tension force has an application. It can be used in vibrations as well as in musical instruments like guitar. Now next force is spring force. Spring force is the force created by a compressed or a stretched spring. Depending upon how the spring is attached, it can push or pull in order to create a force. Now, if the spring is stretched by applying a force, when we remove the force, it comes back to its original shape. This force is called restoring force. Then a spring balance works on this principle. Then another type of contact force is collision force. As the name suggests, whenever there is a collision or whenever two bodies collide with each other, this force is resulted. Now when two bodies collide, then they push each other. As a result, equal and opposite forces act on each body. These forces are the forces of action and the forces of reaction. Similarly, here what happens? Same collision and the force is applied. Similarly, here what happens? When the force is big in this body and the force is smaller in this body, it moves in the direction of the bigger force. Here what happens? Here the smaller body has a bigger force than the larger body. So it moves in the direction of the larger force. Coming to non-contact forces. The forces experienced by bodies even without being physically touched are called non-contact forces or the forces at distance. First one of non-contact force is gravitational force. What is gravitational force? Gravity is a mysterious force that makes everything fall down towards the earth. The force on a body due to Earth's attraction is called the force of gravity or the weight of the body. This causes motion in the body towards the earth if the body is free to move. Suppose you pick a stone and throw it up, again it will come back towards the earth. This is due to gravitational force. The second one is electrostatic force. Electrostatic forces works on the principle that two like charges repel while two unlike charges attract each other. The force between the two charges is called electrostatic force. Force between two charged particles when they are separated is electrostatic force. You can see in both the cases that there is no contact between the two, but still they are attracted, or there is a force between them. So this is non-contact type of forces. Similarly, here what happens when a comb is rubbed against dry hair, then it attracts with small pieces of paper. Why it is possible? Because at the ends you can see there is a positive charge developed in the paper and there is a negative charge developed in the comb. So negative and positive charge attract each other. Unlike charges attract each other. So this is the principle of electrostatic force. The next one is magnetic force. Magnetic force is the force due to a magnet, due to a north pole and south pole of a magnet. Now you can see that there is no contact between a magnet and an iron nail. Still it gets attracted. So there is a force between these two, and that is magnetic force. These are the types of non-contact forces. So thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel so that you can get more videos.